Imagine this, you're standing at your window, watching as thousands, no, tens of thousands, of beetles descend like a biblical plague on your neighbor's prized rose garden. The same garden he tends to every morning with obsessive care. The same neighbor who's made your life hell for 2 years. And the best part? He has absolutely no idea you're the puppet master behind nature's perfect revenge. This is the story of how $4 worth of beetle bait brought a neighborhood bully to his knees. If you've ever fantasized about the perfect revenge, the kind where karma comes dressed as poetic justice, smash that subscribe button right now. Because what you're about to hear isn't just revenge, it's a masterclass in patience, planning, and letting nature do your dirty work. Hit like if you believe bullies deserve what's coming to them, and let's dive into one of the most satisfying revenge stories you'll ever hear. It started with something that should have been simple. A dog fight. Not even a serious one. I was in my backyard on a sunny Tuesday afternoon, just enjoying my coffee, when I heard the commotion. My German Shepherd, Max, was suddenly in full protection mode. A golden retriever, my neighbor's dog, had somehow wandered into my fenced backyard. Max did what any dog would do defending his territory. There were a few seconds of snarling and snapping before I managed to pull Max away. The other dog had a couple of minor puncture wounds, nothing life-threatening, but enough to need a vet visit. Now, here's where any reasonable person would have apologized for their dog getting loose, thanked me for intervening quickly, and moved on with their life. But my neighbor? Oh no. Tom, let's call him Tom, came storming over 20 minutes later, red-faced and shouting. "You're paying every cent of that vet bill," he demanded, waving the invoice in my face like it was a warrant for my arrest. $347. I tried to be reasonable. I really did. "Tom, your dog came into my yard." My dog was defending his space. "I'm not legally responsible here." His face turned an even deeper shade of red. "Either you pay, or I'll see you in court." You know that moment when you realize you're dealing with someone who operates on a completely different wavelength of logic? That was it. But I wanted peace. I had kids. I had a life. So I made an offer that still makes me shake my head. "Look, Tom, I'll pay half. Not because I have to, but because we're neighbors." He literally laughed in my face. "All of it, or court." Fine. Court it was. The small claims hearing was almost comedic in its brevity. The judge listened to Tom rant for about 90 seconds about the vicious attack on his innocent dog. Then she turned to me. I simply stated, "His unleashed dog entered my fenced property." The judge's exact words were, "Mr. Thompson, you're responsible for controlling your animal. Case dismissed. You owe the plaintiff nothing." 3 minutes. That's all it took. You'd think that would be the end of it. You'd be wrong. The psychological profile of a man who can't accept being wrong is fascinating, isn't it? Tom didn't just get angry, he got methodical. The harassment started small, almost imperceptible at first. Every single trash day, without fail, I'd wake up to find my garbage cans knocked over, trash scattered across my driveway. The first time, I thought it was wind. The second time, maybe raccoons. By the 5th time, when I saw Tom's security light conveniently malfunction every Monday night, the pattern was clear. Then came the horn honking. Every time he drove past my house, which was at least twice a day, he'd lay on the horn and flip me off. My kids started asking why Mr. Tom was always so angry. Try explaining adult pettiness to a 7-year-old. But the moment that really got my blood boiling? He called the cops on my 10-year-old son. My boy was riding the neighbor kid's mini bike, with permission, in their backyard. Tom watched from his window, waited until my son got on, and then called the police reporting an underage child operating an illegal vehicle. The officer who showed up looked embarrassed to even be there. For 18 months, this continued. 18 months of what I can only describe as psychological warfare by 1,000 paper cuts. My wife started getting anxiety every time she saw his car. My kids stopped playing in the front yard. We were prisoners in our own home. The restraining order paperwork was thick. We documented everything: photos of the overturned trash cans, doorbell camera footage of the drive-by harassment, the false police report. Our lawyer sent him a cease and desist letter. Tom's lawyer responded with an agreement: no contact with any member of my family for 2 years. Peace returned. But peace and justice are two very different things. I spent weeks lying awake, thinking about Tom's smug face in that courtroom. Thinking about my son's confusion when the police showed up. Thinking about my wife's anxiety. The high road is a lonely place when someone's been throwing rocks at you from the gutter for a year and a half. Then, one day at the hardware store, fate presented itself in the form of a $3.99 Japanese beetle trap. For those who don't know, Japanese beetles are the sworn enemy of rose gardens. They're like tiny, metallic green eating machines that can strip a rose bush faster than you can say pesticide. And these traps? They use pheromone lures, sex and food scents that beetles find irresistible. That's when I saw them: refill packs. Just the scent lures, no traps. 4 packs to a box. Tom's rose garden was legendary in our neighborhood. 3 dozen bushes, meticulously maintained, perfectly pruned. He'd won the Neighborhood Beautification Award 3 years running. Every morning at 6 a.m., he was out there with his coffee, deadheading spent blooms, checking for aphids, adjusting his irrigation system. Those roses weren't just plants to him, they were his identity. I bought 4 boxes. 16-cent packs total. Overkill? Maybe. But after 18 months of harassment, moderation felt inadequate. The plan required precision. These lures are waxy squares in plastic holders. I needed them out of the plastic and hidden in his garden. So I froze them overnight, making the wax contract just enough to pop out cleanly. At 3 a.m. on a Wednesday in July, I became a garden ninja. The neighborhood was dead silent except for the distant hum of the highway. I wore dark clothes, stayed in the shadows, and worked quickly. 16 wax squares, strategically placed throughout his mulch beds, covered with just enough hardwood chips to be invisible. The entire operation took less than 4 minutes. By 11 a.m., the temperature hit 92 degrees. The wax melted into the mulch, creating an invisible beacon. The first scouts arrived around noon, maybe a dozen beetles, nothing dramatic. Tom didn't even notice. Day 2 was when nature's justice system kicked into high gear. I was working from home, and my office window had a perfect view of Tom's front yard. By 10 a.m., there were hundreds of beetles. They moved in waves, metallic green clouds descending on those perfect red roses. Tom came out around 2 p.m. for his usual garden inspection and literally jumped backward. I watched him run inside and come back with 3 different spray bottles. He spent 2 hours that afternoon in full combat mode, spraying, swatting, spreading powder, setting up traditional traps. But here's the beautiful thing about pheromone lures: they don't just attract local beetles. They send out a chemical signal that draws them from miles around. For every 100 Tom killed, 300 more were already en route. Day 3 was biblical. The cloud of beetles was visible from the street. Thousands upon thousands, maybe tens of thousands. They covered every rose bush like a living, crawling blanket. Tom was out there at dawn with a shop vacuum, trying to suck them up. He tried covering the bushes with sheets. He called an exterminator who basically told him there was nothing to do but wait for them to move on. But they didn't move on. Because those 16 hidden lures kept calling them home. By the end of day 4, Tom's prize-winning rose garden looked like it had been hit by a flamethrower. Nothing remained but thorny stalks and the occasional tattered leaf. 3 years of careful cultivation, destroyed in 96 hours. I sat at my window that final evening, watching Tom stand in his destroyed garden. He wasn't raging anymore. He just stood there, shoulders slumped, holding a single untouched rose he'd cut before the invasion. The contrast was perfect, one perfect bloom in his hand, surrounded by botanical devastation. The satisfaction wasn't just about the destroyed garden. It was about the poetic justice of it all. He'd made our lives miserable with 1,000 small attacks. never leaving enough evidence for real consequences. And now? Nature had returned the favor with 1,000 times 1,000 tiny attackers, and he had no one to blame but bad luck. I never told anyone. Not my wife, not my best friend, not even you fine people on Reddit until now, years later. Because the best revenge isn't the kind where your enemy knows you won. It's the kind where they think the universe itself decided they had it coming. Tom's garden has recovered now, as beautiful as ever. And you know what? He's been the perfect neighbor ever since. Quiet, respectful, minds his own business. Sometimes the best fence between neighbors isn't made of wood or wire, it's made of mutual understanding that actions have consequences, even if we don't always see where they come from. If this story gave you that sweet hit of vicarious justice, destroy that like button and subscribe for more tales of perfectly crafted karma. Drop a comment below. What's the most satisfying moment of poetic justice you've ever witnessed? And remember, sometimes the best revenge is the kind that teaches a lesson without leaving fingerprints. Until next time, keep your friends close, your enemies at a respectful distance, and your beetle pheromones closer.